The Order of the Solar Temple is an esoteric cult that was founded upon the ideals of the Knights Templar. This specific cult was founded by Joseph de Membro and Luc Jouret. De Membro's followers were brainwashed to believe that he was a member of the 14th century Christian Order of the Knights Templar in a previous life, and that his daughter, Emmanuelle, was, quote, the cosmic child, and that they would be led to a planet which orbits the star Sirius after their deaths. The cult was started by the two men in 1984 in Geneva, Switzerland. De Membro was born in 1922 and was the eldest of three children, and the son of a construction worker from Italy. He was raised Catholic and went to a Catholic school where he was described as an average student. He took violin courses and went to Mass every Sunday until the age of 20. By the 1950s, de Membro began practicing occultism. He became a member of the ancient and mystical order known as the Rosicrucians. A little while later, he established the Golden Way Foundation, the purpose of which, aside from making money, was to make links between people keen on occultism within the foundation. This is where he met his co-founder, Luc Jouret. Luc Jouret studied to become a doctor, but he didn't do so well with modern medicine, and he completely left the industry. Afterwards, he began traveling the world and studying spirituality and practicing alternative medicine such as homeopathy. Eventually, his journey led him to the Golden Way Foundation, where he met de Membro. Now, a side note is there was apparently a Swiss conductor and composer named Michael Tabachnik, Michael Tabachnik, a famous, supposedly famous conductor and composer, but I'm going to exclude that because it says in this article that he's using the right to be forgotten thing that Google has, so I'm just going to leave it out completely because it doesn't really have much of an impact on what happened. And other than that, this man testified against them at some point. Similar to other cults, money, sex, and power played the biggest roles. The central authority was called the Synarchy of the Temple. The members were secret and headquartered in Zurich, Switzerland. Other countries had lodges, such as Canada, Australia, obviously Switzerland, Martinique, and various other countries. The early activities were a mixture of early Protestant Christian beliefs and various Freemason Templar rituals. It says that several affluent Europeans were secret members of the group, had lodges and altars and all that stuff. On another side note, I have to wonder why it is that rich people and politicians feel the need to be part of these weird cults. Why can't you be normal, you know? And not only that, but this guy kind of looks like Anthony Hopkins in a way. So I'll put a picture in the video so you can see what I mean. So if you haven't figured out where this is going yet, Luc Jouret thought he was Jesus. He thought he was the second coming kind of thing. And he became obsessed with sex and was having intercourse with females belonging to the cult before every single ritual to, quote, give him strength for the upcoming ceremony. And obviously these members all handed over all their money and belongings and everything, and they adhered to strict rules, obviously. And there was one cult member, Tony Dutoit, who he was Canadian, and he spoke out against them and left. And then all of a sudden, in Canada, he, his wife, were all murdered. He and his wife were stabbed to death, and their son Emmanuel, who Joseph de Membro said was the Antichrist, wrapped him up in a plastic, well, not him personally, but by the cult members, were wrapped up in a plastic bag with a wooden stake placed through his chest. Totally stable people we're dealing with here. So in a normal progression of these things, the leadership began to be kind of paranoid and believed they were persecuted by governments. Who would have known that if you just murder people, the government might be after you. They claimed to anticipate the coming of the end of the world due to an environmental disaster and decided that some of the members should leave the earth prematurely. In Fribourg in Valais, the cult members either took their own lives or were ritualistically murdered. Some were shot in the head or asphyxiated, and some had been drugged. Many wore black ceremonial robes and had plastic bags placed over their heads, bodies positioned in a star formation with feet pointing towards the center. Many of the bodies were set on fire afterwards. The two founders, Luc Jouret and Joe DeMambro, were found among the dead. In March of 1997 in Quebec, Canada, 5 more people took their lives, but 3 children managed to escape at the last moment and were the only survivors of the tragedy. The total number of deaths attributed to the cult was 74, including several children. It's my understanding that Swiss composer had testified against the cult in court, and it seems that possibly the surviving members may have gone to jail. I don't really know. It's not really followed up on. The source that I'm using here for this cult is Bizarropedia, and in their article they have like a lot of pictures, they have a video and all that stuff. So if you're interested in reading more about the Order of the Solar Temple, I would suggest looking at that article, because this is like just kind of a short version of the whole thing. And you also have to ask yourself too, like, what makes these people join these cults like this. I had read somewhere before that it has something to do with, like, in their lives they don't really feel like they belong anywheres, with some people anyways, and then they join these cults because there's like a sense of family, as screwed up and dysfunctional as it is. And there's even times when unfortunately people just get roped into it through, no fault of their own, whatever means happen, and it ends up like this, as being like kind of a tragedy, because these are like families that are all just gone now, and there's like those children will like never go to school, they'll never grow up, never get married, never have kids of their own, because they were roped up in this cult, and now it just ends badly for everybody.